Voilà, donc ça c'est le paquet que j'ai reçu. On va procéder à l'ouverture, voir un petit peu ce qu'il y a dedans, c'est la surprise. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on va trouver dedans? Ben, la première chose qu'on trouve, c'est bien entendu le Raspberry Pi. Donc un beau Raspberry Pi 4, 4 Go. Bon, j'ai été gâté là. Et puis les caractéristiques du Raspberry Pi indiquées sous la boîte. Alors la boîte était déjà ouverte parce qu'ils ont mis la carte, ils ont dû le tester je pense avant de l'expédier. Alors comme les ports sorties HDMI sont des micro HDMI, il y a dans le kit donc des connecteurs micro HDMI vers HDMI. Alors là c'est l'alimentation, c'est une alimentation 5 volts 3 ampères. Et puis le deuxième câble, micro HDMI vers HDMI. Voilà, c'est tout ce qu'il y a dans le carton. Alors le Raspberry Pi 4, donc il a quand même un air de famille avec ses frères, avec ses prédécesseurs. Deux prises HDMI cette fois. Et puis la prise Ethernet qui a changé de côté. Elle est passée de l'autre côté des prises USB. Et la prise d'alimentation qui est une USB-C. Les prises bleues, donc qui sont des USB 3.0. Voilà pour le Raspberry Pi 4. On va jeter un coup d'œil à l'alimentation. Voilà, la boîte est un peu dure à ouvrir. Alors normalement il y a une alimentation officielle qui va sortir. Là c'est une alimentation de marque que je ne connaissais pas. Et puis donc elle est livrée avec des embouts qu'il va falloir monter dessus. C'est une alimentation 5 volts 3 ampères. En fait la sortie va s'adapter en fonction de la charge qui va être demandée par le smartphone. Là on est sur une alimentation qui va servir pour le Raspberry, donc elle sortira 5 volts 3 ampères. Là je choisis l'embout européen. Bon, ça se met en place tout seul, c'est une glissière. Et puis de l'autre côté, une prise USB-C dans laquelle on va brancher le câble qui est fourni. Avec un scratch pour le maintenir tenu, puis comme ça permet de le ranger plus facilement aussi. Donc on a bien deux USB-C à chaque, enfin une USB-C à chaque extrémité du câble. Bon, le câble est assez conséquent, assez gros, donc je pense qu'au point de vue alimentation, il n'y aura pas trop de pertes. On passe au câble HDMI. micro HDMI d'un côté. Alors sur le Pi 0, c'était du mini HDMI. Et donc là, c'est du micro HDMI. Donc soit il faut acheter des câbles micro HDMI vers HDMI, soit il faut acheter un adaptateur. Après, il faut voir au niveau résistance ce qui ira le mieux à utiliser. J'ai aussi commandé moi un adaptateur souple, c'est-à-dire un micro HDMI vers HDMI, mais avec un petit bout de câble d'une dizaine de centimètres souple entre les deux. Ça évite que le câble HDMI tire trop sur les prises du Raspberry Pi. Bon, la carte était en place, elle a été fournie par la fondation, elle était livrée avec le Raspberry Pi. Alors attention, pour mettre la carte en place dans le boîtier officiel, il faut bien penser à enlever la carte SD. Surtout quand vous enlevez la carte Raspberry, si vous n'enlevez pas la carte SD, elle va casser. Donc là, c'est une 16 Go qui était livrée. Alors le Raspberry Pi 4 rentre bien dans le boîtier. Simplement, quand on va remettre le couvercle au-dessus, comme la prise Ethernet a changé de place, ça rentre, mais il faut forcer un petit peu quand même. Hein, et ça ne se ferme pas complètement. Donc il va falloir acheter aussi un nouveau boîtier. Voilà, les USB sont branchés, clavier souris, la prise réseau. Alors si vous branchez sur cette sortie HDMI, c'est bon, hein, vous allez avoir l'affichage qui va se faire. Donc là, vous pouvez sortir du 4K, du 4K pardon, à 60. Là, vous pouvez sortir du 4K à 60 frames par seconde. Bon, l'alimentation est en place, on met sous tension. C'est parti. Donc démarrage sur le moniteur, hein, démarrage. Alors comme d'habitude, il vous demande, il vous prévient qu'il va falloir régler un certain nombre de paramètres. Moi, je l'avais déjà lancé une fois, donc j'avais mis français. Nouveau mot de passe. C'est pour éviter d'avoir le message de rappel à chaque lancement. Bon, il est très court, mon mot de passe. Et puis on va lancer la mise à jour du système. Donc là, je vous l'ai fait en temps raccourci parce que ici j'ai une connexion internet qui rame un peu, donc j'ai raccourci les temps. Voilà, on installe le langage, on va aller chercher les updates. Et puis les installer. Et quand les updates seront installés, le système sera prêt à redémarrer, prêt à être utilisé. Voilà, le système est prêt, on le redémarre. Écran multicolore, le splash screen, et puis on démarre donc sur le bureau. Là aussi, je l'ai fait en raccourci, hein, ça dure un peu plus longtemps. Et on arrive, j'ouvre un terminal, on arrive sur un terminal. Bon, pendant qu'on y est, on va prendre la température, comme il vient de bosser, le pros. Donc là, c'est juste à côté de la carte. Et sur le processeur, on a 47 degrés 8, on va dire une cinquantaine de degrés, quoi, 47, 48. Sans qu'il ait beaucoup bossé, là, il a simplement fait les mises à jour. Donc là, je vais installer 6 bench pour faire les tests. Je lance 6 bench. Ça dure 4 minutes à peu près. Et au bout de 4 minutes, on a le résultat. Donc, total exécution 250 secondes. Et puis là, je le lance avec 4 threads. Donc il va exécuter 4 fils de programme en même temps. Et donc là, ça ne dure qu'une minute. Exactement 62 secondes. Et puis donc sur un graphique, là je vous mets pi 3b plus à pi 4 avec un seul thread, on gagne 21%. Et pi 3b plus à pi 4 avec 4 threads, on va gagner 30%. Et puis GLX Gears pour tester l'OpenGL. Ça fonctionne bien, on est à 60 frames par seconde, hein, donc pas de souci. Donc voilà les premiers tests que j'ai pu faire avec ce Raspberry Pi 4.
Welcome to the LibreLec review of the Raspberry Pi 4B. On the left-hand side here, we have a 3B Plus, the outgoing device. On the right-hand side, we've got the new 4B. On the left, the Raspberry Pi has a single full-size HDMI connector, micro 8 USB power. You've got gigabit, but attached to an internal USB bus Ethernet, and then 2 sets of USB 2.0 USB ports. On the Raspberry Pi 4B, first we have a USB-C power cable that's providing 5V 3A to the board. You have 2 micro HDMI connectors which support video output. LibreLec is only going to be supporting one of those at the current time because Kodi only supports one of those outputting when running on the video stack that we run. On Raspbian you can run both screens at the same time. Turning the board round, you've got 2 sets of USB ports, 2 USB 2.0 and 2 USB 3.0, which is going to give a nice boost for people streaming media off a hard disk. On the right you then have proper gigabit Ethernet that is no longer attached to the internal USB bus, so it's going to be a lot faster. In the testing we've been doing, media streaming off a NAS box in the network opens and starts playback with a lot more snap than it did previously. It's really nice to see. The board itself is shipping in 3 different RAM configurations, one GB, which is maintaining the existing $35 original price point for the Raspberry Pi, and then a 2 gig and 4 gig version, which are $45 and $55 respectively. Otherwise, the board is pretty much the same as it was. The exception being, of course, everything's now a lot faster. The new Broadcom BCM 2711 chip is using 4 A72 cores, whereas the previous board is using 4 A53 cores. Although it's only a modest 0.1 gigahertz bump in clock speed, it's actually a much larger bump in overall processing and media capabilities. The new board also has native support for HEVC, so no longer CPU decoding that, which is brilliant for Kodi use. Anyway, let's move on to the next part of the review. We're going to add an SD card, which is installed with LibreLec's new 9.2 Alpha 1 release. We haven't got as far as beta yet. That can go into the micro SD card slot. Raspberry Pi is still using a micro SD card. Some of the people out there might sniff and say, oh, it's not got EMC on it, but micro SD cards are perfectly fast enough for Kodi use. LibreLec runs everything in memory anyway, and performance is still very good. I'm going to add a Flirk USB device because I want to be able to control it. Now, let's move off to the TV. Review. Raspberry Pi is now booting up. This is the new LibreLec 9.2 Alpha 1 release. There's a small SPI boot flash on the Raspberry Pi 4, which will make future bootloader updates easier. Now we're in the Kodi home screen, let's go review some system information quickly. First thing you'll notice is that there's 3.5 gig of RAM free. That's because this is a 4 gig board. In our testing, we've also been looking at 2 gig and 1 gig configurations as well to make sure they run okay. For storage, I'm just using a very basic kind of thing you buy in the supermarket SD card, nothing fancy. The video driver is the new Video Core 3D driver. Because it's new, there are some glitches here and there. There's a little bit of screen tearing in some of the screen navigation, some of the Kodi sort of transitions and file browsing views. Nothing major, nothing that's going to ruin your experience. And the Raspberry Pi Foundation developers have been pushing updates at a phenomenal rate over the last couple of months as the board's been developed. And things are a lot more stable now. And I think the remaining glitches will be resolved fairly quickly. On the hardware, you can see that the number of BOGO MIPS is way up on what it used to be. The hardware is still reported as BCM2835, not the BCM2711 chip that's actually on the board. That's done for software compatibility reasons. It's the same in the previous Raspberry Pi 3 as well. Let's briefly look at some system settings. As you can see in the whitelist, there's all of the 4K resolutions listed in addition to 1080p. I've got the resolution on this particular board set to 1080p. It's not really necessary to run the entire Kodi UI at 4K, and it tends to make the UI a little bit faster and a little bit more responsive. And that's not just true about the Raspberry Pi, that's also true of Amlogic, Rockchip, other devices that we run. Let's go and have a look at some media playing. I've got some test files in a folder. I could show you 1080p, but you will want to see 4K. So this is a trailer of the movie Interstellar. It's running in 4K, it's HEVC.
We used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
As you can see, it started almost instantaneously. I've just got a normal gigabit network here, nothing fancy. The greater throughput on the gigabit NIC is very beneficial for much faster playback start. There you go, player process information, HEVC, 4K on a Raspberry Pi, fantastic. If I bring up the debug view, you'll see that there are 0 frames skipped. It's not a particularly high bitrate trailer. It's not formatted for the web, but good to see. The performance on other 4K videos is not always quite as good. There are still some work in progress things to do with 4K. It's also worth noting that HDR and hybrid log gamma are not yet supported. Those are going to take a little bit of time because they're dependent on kernel frameworks that come in newer kernels. So we will have to wait a little while for that to come. It's more likely to be something that comes in Kodi v19, not Kodi 18. Anyway, that concludes a quick demo of the Raspberry Pi 4B. Thank you.
Hey folks, Rob here from the Magpie, the official Raspberry Pi magazine. Now today I'm here at the Raspberry Pi store in the Grand Arcade in Cambridge for a very special occasion, the launch of the brand spanking new Raspberry Pi 4. Welcome to the new generation of Raspberry Pi. I'm really excited to finally show you all the Pi 4. It's been in development for quite a while now, and every time I was up in the office, I got to hear about some of the amazing things that were happening with it during development. Here it is though, the Raspberry Pi 4 Model B. The new system on a chip is not just an improved 2835 like the last few, but a brand new SoC built specifically for the Pi 4. Now this new generation of chips is the BCM2711 and includes a 64-bit quad-core Cortex-A72 processor that clocks at 1.5 GHz and includes up to a whopping 4 GB of RAM, up from the 1 GB on the last few flagship models. That alone is a massive jump in power, and our benchmarks show that it's a staggering 4 times faster than the 3B+. It also has an upgraded graphics processor. Gone is the video core 4 of every single past Raspberry Pi, replaced with the brand new video core 6. Now this bumps the Pi 4's video outputs to 4K, which can now be done via 2 HDMI ports. You can see here they're 2 mini HDMI, and they're made to be mini HDMI, so both of them can fit on the board. The other ports have also been upgraded. There's now the gigabit Ethernet, 2 of the USB ports are 3.0, and the Bluetooth is being upgraded to 5.0, and the wireless LAN is even more powerful. With all these extra amazing features, the power port has also been upgraded to a 5V 3A USB-C port. It's truly a beast, but you don't have to take my word for it, although why wouldn't you? I'm very trustworthy. As we have a load of benchmarks to back this up. Hello, I'm here with James Adams, the technical lead at Raspberry Pi Trading, and we're going to talk about some of the amazing benchmarks that the Pi 4 has done for us. You know, we'll be showing them on the screen as we discuss them, but you know, the main takeaway from these benchmarks is that the Pi 4, it's faster, it's better, it's stronger, it's more Pi, it's great.
More Pi, it's more Pi for your money. It's a faster processor, it's full gigabit Ethernet, it's USB 3, it's 2 display outputs, it's more RAM.
More RAM.
And it's a Raspberry Pi, which looks very much like old Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, and you're kind of aiming at, one of the good things about it is that it's like a desktop, it's like a real desktop, it's like a full desktop PC.
Yeah, so it really works very well as a sort of comparable to a low-end x86 kind of desktop PC. With the upgrades to the I/O performance and the CPU performance, you can, and the memory, running things like Chrome, web browsing, running Gmail, Facebook, these kind of things all work fairly nicely on the Pi now. YouTube runs fine. So yeah, it's really got a great kind of PC feel now.
For some of these benchmarks, let's start with the big one, the kind of CPU test. We're using Limpack for this test. Our figures for the 3B Plus is about, what does it say here, 225 million instructions per second. And our results for the Pi 4 are about 141 million instructions per second, which is just shy of 4 times faster in these stats, yeah.
Okay, so Limpack is a fairly synthetic benchmark. The CPU on the new machine is it's a more advanced core. Yep. It's running at 1.5 gigahertz versus 1.4 on the Pi 3D Plus, and that doesn't sound like a lot. But the thing is, the core is much more advanced, so it does out of order execution, so it can actually execute per clock many more instructions. So, I mean, Limpack, that's a nice number. We see in real world sort of, say browsing, it's about 2.5 to 3 times faster across the board.
Which is still incredibly impressive.
Yeah, and you couple that with more memory that you can have on the higher tiers of product. It's a great PC.
Yeah. Speaking of memory, the bandwidth has also increased significantly. I think our figures are showing like a 50% at least increase in bandwidth there.
Yeah. So the memory is now LPDDR4, so that's the same kind of memory that you have in your mobile phone.
Yep.
And it's running at 2.4 gigahertz. It has the option to boost up to 3.2 gigahertz as well for. It's doing 4K P60. Yeah, so it's a doubling of memory bandwidth,
which is fantastic. Speaking of 4K P60, one of the cool things about the Pi 4 is that for the first time we're getting an upgrade to the video core from VC4 to VC6, which is the GPU part of the Pi 4. How good is this new video core then?
So it's an evolution of the video core 4 3D engine inside the original Pi 3 and 2 and 1. Mm-hmm. It's running a little bit faster in terms of clock rate, but it's got more silicon under the hood basically. It'll do OpenGL ES3, for example, instead of OpenGL ES2. So there's sort of a tick box update. But yeah, as you can see, it's about 2 times sort of raw performance increase over the previous generation,
which is great. And even with all this extra power draw, or not power draw, but all this extra power from the Pi, we got some figures on the power draw here, and it's only a small increase when we're going idle, and even with a bit of power draw as well. How has that been achieved, even with such a big power increase?
Sure, good question. So the new processor on this board is BCM 2711. It's a new 28 nanometer processor from Broadcom. The previous boards, Eben said at the Pi 3B Plus launch, this is the last board that uses the older 40 nanometer technology. So we've moved down a silicon technology node. That gets you more transistors in the same area, faster transistors and lower power transistors. So we've been able to put these faster CPU cores on, and also just pay attention to the power on all parts of the board. So we turn the clocks down when there's not much going on, and we sort of depower things where we can. So we've managed to achieve quite a good, similar power consumption to the 3B Plus. It'll be a reasonable amount more when you're actually running flat out, but not very much.
Great. And I mean, obviously everything else is slightly faster. So USB 3.0, which is going to be new, huge increase in, like, is it about 10 times faster than 2.0?
So yeah, about 10 times faster. If you put a fast SSD in your USB 3 and do a retest, you'll get sort of north of 350 megabytes a second.
Wow. And even the SD card is faster than before in the 3B Plus.
Indeed. Yep. So we've doubled the speed of the SD card as well. So that will help people. But if you really want blazing faster disk performance, it's probably a good idea to use an SSD.
Great. Well, thank you so much for chatting to me about the Pi 4, and I hope everyone's got a bit more better idea of what we've done to make this better, faster. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. The Raspberry Pi 4 is out right now, and you can find out where to buy one at the link down below or right here in the Raspberry Pi store. Now, don't miss issue 83 out on Thursday for more about the Raspberry Pi 4, including interviews and even more benchmarks.
Hi everyone, new video means a new project, but this time it's with the new Raspberry Pi 4.
Yes, and what's new about this Raspberry Pi? Well, it's very, very powerful. Entry-level desktop powerful. And you can use 2 screens with micro HDMI on this new Raspberry Pi 4, and you can power everything with a fancy USB-C. It also has all the good stuff that we know and love, like the 40 GPIO pins. But enough talk about the new Raspberry Pi. Let's celebrate it by building a project with 4 packs. pies. Let's count them. We have a Pi with a Raspberry Pi 4 inside.
This Pi is calculating pi, and every time it completes this calculation, it prints out a Pi. This is our project to celebrate the new Raspberry Pi 4, and all we've got left to say is bye bye.